All right, let's take a deep dive into Mastek's latest quarterly performance. We've got their Q3 FY25 earnings call transcript, the press release, and even some analyst reports. We're going to break it all down and see what's really going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting picture. This quarter is traditionally a bit slower because the holidays, furloughs, and all that.
hmm
But even with that, Mastek still managed to pull off a 10.9% year-over-year revenue increase. They hit about 869.5 crore, which is roughly 102.9 million US dollars.
And their profits, they jumped even higher, right? Up 21.8%. Plus, they declared an interim dividend of 140%. That's €7 per share. Not bad, not bad at all. But let's dig a little deeper. What's really driving these numbers?
And a lot of it seems to be coming from their UK and European operations. That region is really performing well for them. Their Secured Government Services division had a particularly strong quarter. They renewed a major existing contract, and they even landed a brand new deal worth over $10 million with a new UK government department.
Wow, that's impressive, especially with all the competition in that space. But it sounds like it's more than just government contracts. Their healthcare business is also doing really well. I imagine that's partly due to the UK government's investments in that sector.
Exactly. Mastek seems to be in a good position to capitalize on that. And it's not just that. They're also seeing success in the private sector. In fact, they landed two of their largest ever private sector deals this quarter, one in the UK and one in Europe.
So diversification is definitely a key part of their strategy. Now, what about the US? Things seem a little different over there. Their US business is growing, but the CEO, Umang Nahata, hinted at some strategic changes.
Yeah. It seems like they're consolidating their recent acquisitions, and they're moving toward a revenue model that's a bit more predictable. Managed services and what they call T&M contracts, time and material, basically. They get paid based on the hours and resources they put in.
Hmm. That's different from those big project-based contracts they used to focus on. It sounds like they're prioritizing stability over explosive growth, at least for now. So what does that tell us about their long-term vision for the US market?
That is the question, isn't it? And it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But,
Right.
while we're talking about strategic shifts, we can't ignore the big thing everyone's talking about, AI. It's clearly a major focus for Mastek right now. They're talking about it constantly.
Yeah, and it's not just talk. They're taking a three-pronged approach to AI. First, they're using it internally to boost their efficiency and service delivery. Second, they're building a dedicated AI engineering practice so they can offer those solutions directly to their clients. And third, they're developing their own small language models, or SLM.
Oh, yeah, those SLMs are interesting. Basically, they're like
That's
smaller,
impressive.
more specialized versions of the AI that powers things like chatbots. It seems like they're aiming for AI solutions tailored for specific industries. And don't forget about their partnership with NVIDIA, a leading AI chip maker, so it's clear they're serious about this.
They're not messing around, and they're already seeing results from these initiatives. They just launched ADPT.ai, a tool that uses AI to speed up Oracle Cloud implementations. And they also landed their first deal using Lightbeam, their AI-powered data modernization product.
Right. And then there's their new certification as a Salesforce, Agentforce partner. Now, Agentforce is a pretty new product from Salesforce that lets companies build and deploy custom AI-powered agents. It's still early days for this technology. But the fact that Mastek is already a certified partner shows they're at the forefront of AI innovation.
It's a bold move for sure, but could it be what sets them apart from the competition?
Possibly. But like any bold move, there are always risks.
Okay, so let's talk about those risks. What are some of the challenges they're facing with this AI transformation?
Well, for one thing, they're not immune to the headwinds impacting the IT services industry. They're seeing some weakness in the U.S. healthcare payer segment. They say it's because of policy uncertainty.
Right. That's something a lot of companies in that space are dealing with. But Mastek did mention that their healthcare provider business is still doing well.
True. Another challenge they're up against is the decline of their commerce business line, which is mostly based on Oracle products. They're trying to shift away from that and focus more on digital engineering and Salesforce solutions. But that transition is taking time.
It's never easy to make those kinds of changes, especially when you have established technologies and customer relationships. Plus, on top of that, their CFO, Arun Agarwal, resigned recently. They're looking for a replacement. But that kind of leadership change always adds some uncertainty.
Definitely. So while their focus on AI is exciting, it's important to remember they're dealing with a lot of complexities.
It's like they're juggling, trying to keep everything balanced, while also pushing forward with this big AI agenda. So for our listeners, the question is, Do you think Mastek can overcome these challenges and become a real leader in the AI space? Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. But to really see how this is all playing out, we need to look at the financials. What are the numbers telling us?
Well, one thing that stands out is their operating margin. It dipped a little this quarter, down to 16.2%, about 30 basis points lower than last quarter.
Hmm, that seems a bit odd. The revenue's growing, but margins shrinking. What's going on there?
Probably a few things. For one, they had those salary increases back in August and October. That's going to hit the margins. Plus, you've always got currency fluctuations.
Sure.
The British pound weakened against the U.S. dollar. That didn't help.
Ah, the joys of global business, right?
And hey,
At least their U.S. business reached that double-digit margin target. That's got to be a good sign.
it is. But at the same time, their UK margins shrunk a bit. They blamed it on onboarding costs for new hires. And you guessed it, more currency fluctuations.
A bit of a mixed bag then. So it seems like currency risk is something they'll need to watch closely as they grow. Now, what about their client base? It's interesting that they actually reduced the total number of active clients, down from 380 to 351.
Right, you'd think more clients equals more revenue. But Mastek actually addressed this in the earnings call. They're focusing on higher value clients, letting go of those smaller, less profitable accounts.
So quality over quantity makes sense. Deeper relationships with clients who can bring in more consistent revenue.
Exactly. It's all about those long-term relationships, especially in professional services. Now, another thing, their headcount also went down slightly, from 5,505 employees to 5,260.
Didn't they connect that to their AI work?
They did. They want to be more efficient, do more with less people. AI is the key to that. It's risky, but it could really pay off.
High risk, high reward. Speaking of the future, did they give any revenue projections for the next year?
No hard numbers. But they're optimistic, especially about the UK. They've got a good backlog of contracts there, and they expect strong performance in both government and healthcare.
Sounds like the UK is their golden goose right now. What about the US? Are they feeling as good about that market?
They were more cautious about the US, mostly because of that consolidation and the shift in revenue model. I think they're expecting steadier growth there, but maybe a bit slower in the coming quarters.
A more measured approach. Makes sense. But we can't forget about the CFO leaving. That definitely adds some uncertainty. How do you think that will affect their plans?
It's hard to say for sure, but they are searching for a replacement, and they've got an advisor to help with the transition.
So they're handling it as best they can. All right. Taking all this into account, what are your key takeaways? What should our listeners be watching for with Mastek?
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, huh? They're at a crossroads, that's for sure. They're really going all in on AI, and that always comes with risks. But they're also being smart about it, focusing on those high-value clients, and figuring out how to navigate that tricky U.S. market.
You know what I find interesting? They're not just using AI for new products, they're also using it internally to improve their own operations. It's like they really get AI's potential beyond just the buzzwords.
Right, they're not just chasing the latest trend. They're trying to become a true AI-driven company. Whether they succeed or not, we'll have to see. But it's a bold vision.
Definitely. But we can't forget about those challenges. That weakness in the U.S. healthcare payer market is a bit worrying. And that shift away from their old commerce business, it's slow going. And then there's the CFO leaving. That adds another layer of uncertainty. For sure. It shows that even the most innovative companies, they're still affected by things outside their control and by changes happening within the company.
Yeah. So for our listeners, I think the takeaway here is Mastek is a company in motion. They're making big bets, taking risks, adapting to a world that's changing fast. Whether this leads to success in the long run, that's something you'll want to follow closely.
Exactly. Their story is a really interesting one. They're kind of a microcosm of what's happening in the whole IT services industry. You can learn a lot from their successes and their setbacks, especially if you're interested in digital transformation and AI.
It's a complex story for sure, and we've just scratched the surface, but hopefully this deep dive has given you some context so you can understand Mastek's position, their goals for the future, and how their choices might affect your own investment.
Right. We want you to be able to connect the dots and draw your own conclusion. So as you keep an eye on Mastek, ask yourself, what does their AI strategy tell us about the bigger picture? How might their approach to clients and revenue models affect other companies in the market? And maybe most importantly, what can you learn from them that you can use in your own business or investments?
Those are the questions that keep us thinking and learning. That's what these deep dives are all about, going beyond the headlines, exploring the details, and helping you make better decisions in a world that never stops changing.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Mastek. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even a little inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.